Hello to everyone. Good morning. Good morning to some, good afternoon to some, good evening to some, and maybe good night to some. I don't know. It depends on what part of the world you're in. Checking into this meeting. Very warm welcome wherever you are. Before I say anything else, I would just like to let you know that this program is being recorded. So for anyone on the call, if you do not want to be identified, you are free to keep your videos off. That would be okay. The rest of you, we would love to see your beautiful faces. So if there's anyone here for the first time today, and by that I mean anyone who's never been to a program offered by the Point of Life Foundation, the Brahma Kumaris, or the Janki Foundation for that matter, very, very, very special welcome to you. I'm quite sure there are some of you here who are here for the first time. And so surely many of you have attended programs offered by the Point of Life or by the BKs, from the Kumaris, or by the Janki Foundation. So I know for you, you have probably come to retreats in Peace Village, or you'll probably come to or Heal Well, Feel Well forums on Sunday evenings, or to workshops, or to something else in the UK with the Janki Foundation. Many of you probably have. And the rest of you who have not, if things seem a little unusual or different, or you haven't heard things like this before, it doesn't matter. We are all welcome here today, and we are looking forward to all having a very good time today. It's a very big group of us. I don't know how many are on the call so far, over 100, but we do have over 300 people that have registered. So it will be a very big group. And so we're going to create a beautiful atmosphere, a virtual atmosphere that is nurturing to ourselves, that is supporting for each other, and that helps us grow together, and that hopefully create hope for each other. And so again, a very warm welcome to all to the Stillness in the Storm, coping with fear and uncertainty, a spiritual approach. And so my name is Carmen. And so before we go any further, I am going to invite Dr. Kala Eagger to share with us an opening reflection.
Yes, good morning, good evening, good everything, and a very warm welcome also. And what better way to start something like this than to take a few minutes to check out the inside, the intention, and the feelings with which we come to this program. I know we're all here because of the values that we uphold very dearly, but also we are full of activities and stuff that happens daily, moment to moment. So let's take time to put all those things aside and honor this time and space that we've created for ourselves. First of all, the physical space that surrounds you. Acknowledging the space, but also going beyond that space to a place of comfort, a place of receiving, listening, Perhaps you can call this your head space. Inside each one of us is an ability to listen and make sense, to think, to put meaning. Let's honor that space. Perhaps it is a space that processes information and even maybe concepts. And yet more, let's step into this other beautiful space that we all hold. The heart space. Where it's not about words or numbers, or boundaries or borders or limits. An open space, a clean space, nothing from before, nothing coming after, just this moment. My presence in this moment. And bringing that beautiful feeling of possibilities, of embracing what is true to me and real to me. Perhaps even a space of quiet and silence, allowing things to settle down rather than analyzing or judging, just being and listening with an open heart. Perhaps this is the space that will serve us the most in the next few minutes. Let's hold that. Hold that space. And prepare to receive, to learn, and to experience in a different way than we would do in a normal setting or day-to-day life. Silent heart space. Om Shanti.
Carmen, you're on mute.
Am I open? Sorry. Okay. All right. So thanks, Dr. Kala. I think I'll just take this moment right now just to introduce to you Dr. Kala, so we don't have to go back to that next time. Just to let you know who she is. Dr. Kala is or founding president of or founding director of the Point of Life Foundation and director of the Peace Village Learning and Retreat Center in Haines Falls, New York. I'm sorry, are you getting an echo? You're getting an echo? I am getting an echo too. That. Yes, did you hear? I don't know if you heard. I was just taking that opportunity to introduce Dr. Kala to you. As I said before, not sure if you heard me. She is the founding director of the Point of Life Foundation and the director of the Brahma Kumaris Retreat Center in New York, Peace Village Learning and Retreat Center. And she's been, she is a physician, a pediatrician by training, but now all she does is spiritual health care. And so she's been practicing Raj Yoga for over 40 years. So we'll be hearing from her again later in the program, but I thought I would just introduce her at this point. All right, so I'm going to ask the question now, why are we here today? Not quite yet. Yeah, why are we here today? As healthcare providers, why are we discussing very important and very timely theme of stillness in the storm, coping with fear and uncertainty? There is no question that we're in a time now in the world where it seems as though we're really in a major storm. And there is no question that many of us have been encountering quite a bit of fear connected to that, quite a feeling of uncertainty. And for many, some even feel a sense of hopelessness. And so if we are not taking care of ourselves, really, we are not going to be able to maintain and sustain our sense of equilibrium and sense of inner peace. And of course, we know if we don't do that for ourselves, if we don't take care of ourselves and allow ourselves to maintain the highest state of sense of well-being, we will lose equilibrium, we will lose our center, and we will not be our best to ourselves, and we will not be able to do the best we want to do in our work in taking care of others, our patients, and our families. So we want to, the Point of Life Foundation and the Brahma Kumaris over many years, and in the United States, and the Janki Foundation in the UK also over many years, have all been offering several different kinds of programs to healthcare professionals to help them to come together to look at ways to sustain themselves, to maintain themselves so that they can really be the best and to give the best. And so we know that if we don't find ways to do this and to stay mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically healthy, we can't be the best for ourselves. So this is what we're doing. And so today we are going to be exploring some ways to how to cope with these times of uncertainty and really cope with the fear that may come for some and enable us to maintain our sense of equilibrium and our sense of peace. So this is what is going to be happening today. And the program is co-sponsored by the Point of Life Foundation in the US, the Brahma Kumaris in the US, and the Janki Foundation in the UK. And our presenters will be representing the three entities. And we have with us Dr. Sarah Eagger, who will be our guest speaker, and she has graciously agreed to do this. And Dr. Yeager is the president of the chair of the Janki Foundation. And we also have Marilyn Heller, who is going to be interviewing and in conversation with Sarah. And Dr. Heller, you already met, and Julia Wander is from the UK, also connected to the Janki Foundation, and Dr. Sri Tang is in the US, who is also a member of, or have participated in the Point of Life Foundation activities, and also a student of the Brahma Kumaris. You will hear a little bit, we'll introduce them a little bit more in detail as we go further in the session and as they are about to present to you. Today, this event actually is intended to do two things. Actually, we're doing this program now because we want to address two things. One is to celebrate the first year anniversary of the Heal Well Lounge, which is a healthcare initiative of the Point of Life Foundation and the Brahma Kumaris. And this initiative started just around the time when the pandemic started, and the aim was to support healthcare practitioners. And the second thing, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that because we're honoring that event. But the other thing that we're doing today is honoring someone who's very, very special to all of us, and that is Dadi Janki, who was the founding president of the Janki Foundation for Spirituality in Healthcare in the UK, and was also the former head of the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University. And she left her body about a little more than a year ago at the age of 104. But she was very special in that the way she contributed to the advancement of spirituality in healthcare. So you will be hearing more about Dadi Janki because we will be offering some tributes to her. But these are the two things that have brought us together for this event. And so what we will do right now, I think we could just move to tell you a little bit more about the Heal Well, Feel Well Lounge. So could we do that? Could we just show that slide, please? So the Heal Well, Feel Well Lounge is, as I said before, is an initiative that was started by the Brahma Kumaris and the Point of Life Foundation just about a year ago, and that's why we're celebrating this 1-year anniversary. It's designed really to serve healthcare professionals who we understand are the backbone of the healthcare system and really have gone through a lot of stress and a lot of turbulence in trying to deal with the situation within the healthcare during this time of the pandemic. And so what the event, what it does, it allows healthcare workers to come together every Sunday evening. We have come together at 8 o'clock to 8:45, 45 minutes, and we provide, or we enter into some discussions and meditation to provide some skills, some ways that healthcare practitioners can understand how to really sustain themselves, heal themselves, and go through these times feeling well nurtured. And so this is what we've been doing for 1 year now. And it is our honor and privilege to really acknowledge the effort that everyone has made to make this happen, both for those who've come as participants, but for those who have been sharing as presenters. And so could we, at this time, we will just show you a slide of that is going to speak a little bit to, it's a video of what we have been doing in the lounge. There's no sound. No sound.
Have
Shanti, good evening, and welcome back to our weekly nights at Feel Well, Heal Well Meditation Lounge.
Om Shanti, greetings of peace. As you know, these are programs that we have been continuing to have since about 3 months ago, 4 months ago, maybe a little over 3 months ago, when we really felt that those who are in the healthcare, right in the middle of it, right in front lines, are facing things that probably nobody else is facing. And
I remember once, a few years ago, we did this retreat about creating your vision of the perfect healthcare system. What would the perfect healthcare system look like if we had a dream world and healing could happen in a beautiful place that's filled with healing energy and music and flowers, and what kind of time would we have with our patients and how would we feel? It was a beautiful vision to have.
There are three dimensions of true service, doing true service. One is that, yes, of course, by actions that we see on the left side, by genuinely helping or doing something physically. And the second dimension is through words. And the third type of dimension is the service through the mind. So first, and in between, there is serve with an intention that comes, right? Intention to serve.
So what is stress? We consider stress to be a form of pain that comes to tell us that there is something that we need to change. And that pain, of course, is a messenger. Pain is always a messenger that tells us there's something that we need to learn. If we don't learn, if we don't understand what's going on, if we don't understand what I'm feeling, that is a sign of something that needs to be addressed. If we don't recognize that pain, we won't be able to address it.
I think any time when there is fear, there is the cause of it is ignorance. Somebody is afraid of snakes is because they don't know how snakes behave. If there are people who really know how snakes behave, then they're not afraid of snakes or anything else. So if we begin to understand that, then we will be free from the fear of death. And that's what has happened over these many years. Is I have tried to dig into Raj Yoga meditation quite a bit, trying to experiment with a lot of different things and research extensively in these past several years.
But we have all tools, all what we need to have to remain content. So when we define and we go to the dictionary and then we find the definition of contentment, I found this definition is very simple and it's very complete. That's the way I saw it. It's a state of happiness and satisfaction.
ABCD strategies to manage my own pain. First is I became very alert, and secondly, B for believing. Thirdly, C for consciousness. And fourthly, D stands for I started to deliver service, because I was overflowing with positivity to such an extent that I used that positivity to serve others.
Okay, so a little bit of a taste of what the Heal Well, Feel Well Lounge is about. So thank you for sharing that video. So the next thing we are going to be engaging in now is the main part of the program, which is a conversation or an interview with Dr. Eagger and Marilyn. And so I will introduce them both to you a little bit more than I did before. Dr. Sarah Eagger who is our guest today. She is the chief of the Janki Foundation, and she's worked in the NHS as a consultant psychiatrist and honorary senior clinical lecturer at Imperial College London for 30 years. As a Raj Yoga meditation practitioner for over 40 years and a certified mindful self-compassion teacher, she currently serves on the executive of both the Royal College of Psychiatrists Spirituality Interest Group and the World Psychiatric Association's section on religion and spirituality. And so it is really our pleasure to have Sarah with us today. And thank you so much, Sarah, for agreeing to be with us in this beautiful occasion. And Marilyn Henner, Marilyn is going to be interviewing Sarah. And Marilyn is a physical therapist at the Spalding Outpatient Center in Cambridge, Massachusetts. She's a certified integrative manual therapist, and she practices and teaches Raj Yoga meditation for the past 14 years and integrates spiritual principles of Raj Yoga into her practice. And Marilyn will always say this is what empowers her and sustains her inner work. And so again, thank you so much, Marilyn. And I just want to let you know that once the interview is finished, we're going to be going into breakout group, and you will hear a little bit more about that, where you'll have a chance to talk and then come back. So this is what is going to be happening. Okay, so Sarah and Marilyn, thank you.
Hey, thank you so much, Carmen. And Sarah, it's so nice to see you again.
Hi, Marilyn.
Hello. Really looking forward to this conversation. So we're just going to dive right in there and get started. So, you know, on your side of the pond, so to speak, people may know about Janki Foundation already, but those of us on the other side of the pond in the States and Canada may not know. So I just thought to start with, if you can share a little bit about how the Janki Foundation got started. And I know you were instrumental in developing service programs and resource materials for them, and that you serve as the chair to this day. So could you explain a little bit about the history of that, the purpose of the foundation, and how your original inspiration, motivation for bringing spirituality into healthcare?
Well, thanks, Marilyn. Hello, everyone. As we said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. If you're all well today. Very interesting question. The Janki Foundation started, I think, in 1996, and it was originally set up to raise funds really to support a hospital in India. And I don't know if any of you have been there, but the Global Hospital and Research Centre was built in Mount Abu, and it was quite unusual. It serves a very deprived area of Rajasthan, very rural population, and they really didn't have very much healthcare at all before that. And this hospital has, it was beautifully designed. The architecture is quite special. And then they've brought doctors and nurses and therapists and all kinds of things from all over India and sometimes internationally to work there and have a very high level of facility. Of course, they're also coping with COVID at the moment, so we're supporting them as best we can through donations for their COVID efforts. And Dadi Janki was always interested in supporting the hospital. She's had a long-standing involvement in healthcare, and she was the person who said, well, you can't just exist to raise money, you really have to serve people. And so it was her inspiration that we should really have educational programs and do things that help people understand this link between spirituality and health. So we've done retreats and conferences and lectures and all kinds of programs. But I think the thing that we're really most proud of was a facilitators program called Values in Healthcare, a spiritual approach. So we designed a whole manual to help people teach the principles of how spirituality helps healthcare practitioners to survive the day-to-day rigors of their work in healthcare. So it's fundraising, but also education, spirituality and healthcare education, that they're our aims.
Was there something specific that inspired you to get involved? I mean, I know Dadi asked you, but like was there? What about you from your own journey was brought into this?
Well, I first became interested in spirituality as a medical student. I did medicine in Melbourne, Australia. And I really had a deep sense that there was more to us than, just blood and bones and brains. And I felt that really what I needed to do was learn to meditate myself. That's kind of the conclusion I came to. I read a lot. So it was through my own experience of meditation, really, that I began to really appreciate what I guess we know as the holistic model, that sense that we are mind, body, and spirit. We're not just the body, that there's more going on. And I remember one very powerful experience I had was quite early on as a medical student. I remember talking to a patient who had had this horrific accident. I think he was in a tram, because I have trams in Melbourne, that was run, there was a truck that ran into the tram and there was a huge fireball. So he was very badly burnt. And I saw him in his rehabilitation, and he described to me in great detail. He said, I really wasn't worried, doctor, because I just was above my body. I was looking down. I was just feeling really peaceful and absolutely fine. And I can tell you right now, dying is not a problem. So it was quite an interesting experience and I didn't doubt his experience. And of course, I've heard many more things like that since from people, that there's something about us as a spiritual being that I think is really important to understand, in that mind-body connection, where what is the mind, who is the person who's experiencing life, who has that sense of identity. That's really important. And I think Dadi Janki was someone who she looked after healthcare in the organization, the Brahma Kumaris organization, in the early days. And she wasn't a trained nurse, but she just had a natural aptitude for looking after people. And she didn't have a lot of resources. And I think she learned herself about, I think what was mentioned in the slideshow, about the power of the mind and how she herself really became the medicine. And I think a lot of us experienced that in her company. A lovely quote of hers that I find very inspirational. She talks about compassion, being able to not to want to see another person suffering, but having the strength in yourself to help remove that suffering. And she was a real example of that. I mean, many people will tell you might go into her with a problem or feeling a bit upset about something. It was just her presence would uplift you. There was energetically, she would somehow make you feel that your problems weren't really big anymore. But I think it's like she donated energy to you. It was a real gift. And I think for me, knowing through my own experience in meditation, what we might call the gift of the soul, the gift of knowing that you're a spiritual energy, that entity is not just bound by this physical body and does have its own eternity, if you like. It is very freeing and a very powerful experience that I had in meditation. So I could see all the benefits from my own practice of meditation and really wanted to find ways to share that with people. So we have in the Janki Foundation developed an app as well. It's called Happy Dote, which is a meditation app for people who are stressed. And as I said, we've done lots of educational programs, and we have books. And of course, the one that inspired today's event is this one, Stillness in the Storm, which I co-authored with someone called Jan Alco last year during lockdown. So again, we were inspired to use this somewhat, which you call dramatic or quite serious downturn of global events for everyone, to use that opportunity to try and talk about some of the skills that I've learned over the years in terms of managing my own stress and anxiety and fear.
Well, it's a beautiful outcome of a difficult time. So looking forward to learning a little bit more about what you found and experienced through that. So in order for us to be sort of, we use Dadi Janki as an example, because I know exactly what you're talking about. You just sit with her and your problems dissolve and your worries dissolve, and she somehow heals things inside just with her presence. So if we wanted to be able to be that for our patients, what is it that we need to do for ourselves? Because you can't just live in this stress and expect that we're going to be able to help people in that way, to take away their suffering, because stress is internal suffering for our own selves. And you wear so many hats, right? You are a long-term Raj Yoga meditation teacher and practitioner, mindful self-compassion teacher, a psychiatrist. You have so much background in this. If you could give one message to healthcare professionals today about what it is they need to do to become more resilient, to stay in the calm, despite the storm around them, so that they can truly be present and help their patients and their families and themselves, what would that be?
Oh, I don't know if I have one message. You're putting me under pressure there, but
sorry, I didn't mean to do that. You shared one particular thing when we talked before about self-care that really touched me. So
yeah,
that's really what I was trying to get at.
okay, yeah, self-care. I mean, interestingly enough, I'm right now co-writing an article on radical self-care for the Journal of Holistic Health here in the UK. So it's really had me thinking quite deeply about that whole topic. And the other lady I'm writing it with, Sarah Kuipers, has written a book called The Thriving Giver. And both of us are very aware of how, burnout rates are very high in healthcare professionals. Suicide rate in doctors is quite scary. One doctor kills themselves every 4 days, apparently. People are leaving the profession. So there is a real kind of crisis about what's going on in healthcare at the moment in terms of people being able to cope with a very difficult situation and also stay the course. And so we asked the question, well, she's done a lot of research, but we asked the question really, why is it that, and it seems that healthcare professionals are not very good at looking after themselves. And a lot of it does go back to childhood patterns. So it's already been noted that healthcare practitioners tend to, and especially doctors, tend to be more self-critical. And that's a trait that leads to increased rates of depression and anxiety. So that tendency to kind of blame yourself, put yourself down, somehow feel that you're not worthy to be looked after. So that inner critic can be very powerful. But also, if you were a kind of people pleaser, if in your early family life you were the one who was looking after everyone else, or you were quite responsible, you had to take on roles of responsibility as a child in looking after people around you. These kind of traits often mean that you tend to put yourself last in a way, or you look after everyone else, or that sense of you're trying to not exactly prove yourself, but you're trying to show that you're good enough. So there's some underlying personality traits that have been shown in healthcare practitioners that we need to look at more deeply. And so for me, I think the practice of self-compassion was something that really helped me shift a lot of those underlying childhood patterns. And there's a very simple exercise in that course, the Mindful Self-Compassion course by Kristen Neff and Christopher Germer, where you're just asked to visualize you've got a friend who's suffering or in pain, and how do you respond to them? And most people realize that they give them a hug, or they say it's okay, and they speak kindly and give good advice. And then you ask people to say, now you're suffering in some way, and how do you respond to yourself? And in fact, it's quite shocking then we notice that the language we use with ourselves, we can be quite harsh, pull yourself together, or, you don't matter so much, or, you're pathetic, and again, these could be voices from your childhood. So the meditation and the mindfulness practices are ways of noticing how you talk to yourself, noticing how you respond to your own pain and suffering, your own distress. And then the self-compassion practices are really using that energy of love. And that energy of love is really part of our spiritual identity. And this is what I find is most profound and really links the spiritual with the neuropsychological, if you like, is that when you have an understanding and an experience of yourself as a spiritual being, and the nature of that spiritual being is love, is peace, is joy, that it's like your own internal powerhouse. And you can use that power to soothe yourself, to calm yourself, to heal yourself. And more than that, you can also connect to what we might call an ocean of love. So there is a source, divine, higher power, whatever word you want to put onto it, that in meditation you can link to that higher power. And that energy of love also heals you and calms you down. So I would say these practices are the ones that I've found most helpful in dealing with my own stress and pain and maybe some childhood patterns, and also just filling myself up with the kind of energy that enables me to keep working in the job, as it were, to sustain myself as you're going throughout your day. And that's it's really interesting because actually last night I was on a workshop conference for another thing that's going on right now. It's called Spirit of Humanity Conference. And it was a workshop by Tanya Singer. And Tanya Singer has done an enormous amount of research into what parts of the brain light up when there's empathy, and it's a different part of the brain that lights up with compassion, and really understanding the different pathways that we have. She calls them motivational system. Paul Gilbert calls them emotional regulation system. So that sense that we have the threat and defense system, which is, the adrenaline, fight, flight, or freeze. We have the doing system, the motivational system, which is very dopamine driven. So we're very busy, and also we get addicted to social media and just our to-do list. And then we have that soothing system, which is the oxytocin and endorphins. And that's the system that's being triggered through meditation, self-compassion practices, going for a walk in nature, listening to music, just being with a baby or a puppy. All these things can help. We can help soothe ourselves. And I asked her, I said, it's very interesting that we can have a description at the level of the brain. But in my own research, I did a lot of research in Alzheimer's and brain scans. I said there was never a part of the brain that really explained that sense of me, the experiencer, me, the witness, me, the observer, and how we have this kind of integrated sense of self, until I understood that I was a soul, that I was a spiritual being. And she said, no, that's a really interesting point. And there are people who are trying to have a discourse about this level of description at the brain level, but then there's a level of description and experience at a consciousness level. And no one's really been able to understand why those things are happening at different levels. So for me, that knowledge of being a spiritual being, and that's the being that has the sense of me or I or my own memories, my own personality, my own qualities, and my own experiences. Once I understood that, a whole lot of things fell into place in terms of us as what it means to be a human being or a soul in a body. Anyway, I've told you a lot there. I haven't overwhelmed you.
No, I love to listen. So it's very beautiful. And I feel like after I did work with the book a little bit, I know you were saying this is sort of the way you've organized yourself in your mind about how it is that we can come into an experience of the self as a soul. It's like starting from the ground up, you were telling me. And that was my experience too, that perhaps even as a meditator, as a spiritual practitioner for myself, that I'd skipped over a couple of those steps along the way, the background steps that needed to be done for me to get out of my own way, almost to step out of this stress mode. There was a piece of it was missing for me, particularly around self-compassion. And you having laid these out was very helpful for me to go beyond and experience a deeper experience of my own self as a soul, my own connection to source energy. So we don't have a lot of time, but how could these set of techniques, sort of this mindful / spiritual techniques that you've sort of put together, how can they help us mitigate stress and the experience of stress that you just so easily described about getting out of fear mode, out of doing mode, and back into calm and soothing? How can they help us to sustain ourselves in our daily practice, in our daily life, in our daily work, and also create a sense of hope for the future, or a sense of resilience? Like, if something like this happens again, I'll be better able to handle it. I'll be better able to be present. Is there a piece of this practice in that resilience?
Well, I think, as you said in the book, we've kind of organized it so that what we start with, there are 7 tools, if you like. So the first one is creating a safe space. So it's to, and for a lot of people, the space inside is a bit scary, when you turn around and look inside, and all the thoughts that are going around. So it's really developing the practice of being able to find a safe place inside. And you can use quite a lot of techniques for that. Visualization and meditation takes you into a very special place inside, which is quite still and silent. And it's a bit of an obstacle for some people, because it's like the busyness and the noise of the mind, or the feelings that arise, somehow feel a bit overwhelming. So it's like trying to get underneath that, really, or behind it. It's hard to explain it spatially, but it is a sense that it's almost like riding a bicycle. You always think, I'm not going to get there, I can't do this. And then one day you turn around and you notice there's no one holding the back of the bike anymore. And you've managed to find that place inside yourself, which really is quiet. And it is by sort of observing and detaching from your thoughts in a way, or just watching them. And I like the visualization of standing on a side of a river, and your thoughts are like the water going past, and you're just watching them coming and going. Being present, so bring yourself into the present. Loving myself, so all the self-compassion practices, of which there are, there's many. But one that I find really helpful and grounding, and I might have shared this with you, Marilyn, is the nice thing is about these practices to use them in the moment, not to use them, after I've finished work and I'm exhausted and stressed, and then I go and have my hot bath, or, watch telly or something, but in the moment. So when I'm, say, with someone who's suicidal or very depressed, and their energy, in a sense, the empathic part of me could really get caught up in that energy. But instead, I am like breathing in compassion for myself. So I've really tuned into that energy of love and compassion, or love from the source, and I'm breathing it out for the other person. And so it's like I'm including myself, like I need looking after too while this is going on. So I'm doing a practice at the same time as I'm in the room with that person. That means I'm looking after myself as well as them. And there are lots of little techniques that you can do which help you to achieve that. And that's what I really like about it. And someone who practices Raj Yoga meditation would really know that experience of connecting to the source quite quickly, even within a second, just feeling, I need peace now, let me connect to peace. I need to feel love now, let me connect to love. And it's kind of like, once you know that that highway, once you've got that frequency, you can actually tune into it very quickly. And it's just a question of remembering to do it. And when you do it, you can feel yourself calming down. You can feel the soothing system kicking in. You can feel that, yes, you're not alone, that you're being supported. These kind of experiences are really powerful and a part of the book. We also talk about empowering yourself. So there are techniques, there are capacities we have, and we talk about those: the capacity for gratitude, for hope, for forgiveness, for setting boundaries, things that you can do that really help support yourself. Again, you know, the idea of radical self-care. Why aren't I doing these things already? Understand what's blocking me and really doing what's going to help me most in the long run. And as you say, if you practice these things, a bit like going to the gym and building up your muscles, the more you practice them just as part of your daily life, your daily routine, taking care of me is absolutely fine. It's number one priority. And then it becomes a resource, your resource strengthens. And so when things really do get bad, you're already topped up. You're not running on empty. You're kind of ready for the challenge. But you really have to look after yourself, not in a selfish way, not in a narcissistic way. It's really as if you were your own best friend, you know, as if you were caring for yourself like a precious child or a puppy or anything that needs looking after. Just really noticing what is my attitude towards myself and how can I make that more loving, caring, and kind.
Wonderful. Well, Sarah, I could listen to you all day. I wish we had a whole another hour to get into these things more deeply, but I want to thank you so much for sharing our inspirations for us on how to take care of ourselves more deeply so that we can be happy in our lives and serve from that place of happiness and build our resilience to help be still in the storm, and these types of practices are what can take us there. So what I'm hoping is you might be willing to facilitate a little example meditation for us, an exercise for us, and take us into that soothing, calm space and experience just what it is you've been talking about, that essence of self-care and awareness and everything. So thank you, and hope that we will all enjoy a meditation break with you.
Okay. So what I'd like to invite you to join me in a way, it's a meditation, you could call it my inner sanctuary if you like, but it's really going through from the outside in, and in that process of the outside coming in, finding your safe, peaceful place inside and connecting to a source of love. So I'm just going to take us through that little journey, if you like. So I invite you to just relax, let your shoulders drop, take a few deep breaths. And just start by noticing the sounds in your environment. Just bringing yourself into the present moment. What are you hearing? Might be the ticking of a clock or a bird song or traffic. If you're really lucky, the ocean. And then bringing your attention a little closer in, just noticing, how's your body feeling? Are there any areas of tension that you just need to let go? Letting your legs relax, your arms relax, your shoulders, your neck. And just coming a little closer still and tuning into your breathing. Noticing that gentle rhythm of breathing in and breathing out. How just the rhythm of your own breathing is soothing in itself. And then going even closer still and just observing what feelings are arising right now. Am I feeling tired, relaxed, anxious? Just see if I can name that feeling. Just notice what it is. And similarly, what are the thoughts or ideas that are going through my mind? So if I'm standing on a riverbed, the thoughts are just flowing into my mind and then they're gone. And I step away from the riverbed and walk into a beautiful clearing. Place that feels very safe. My own inner sanctuary. And I notice here it's very still. Very quiet. Very peaceful. And as I sink deeper into this feeling of peace, I find my own inner well of love. Of kindness. Of care for myself. An energy of compassion. Which I send to my own body where it's aching or tired or in pain. To my own mind where thoughts might be racing or in a jumble. To my own feelings, that soothing, comforting energy of love. And I might even call upon more support from an ocean of love. An energy that knows me, supports me, and gives me strength. I feel held in that embrace of love, compassion, and comfort. And then gradually I bring myself back into the awareness of my breathing, of my body in the space of the room. So I hope that little practice gave you some sense of the journey within and the resources that all of us have within us that we can tap into and use once we have the map and we know the route. So thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you. Om Shanti. Okay, so welcome back. Looks like a few are still making their way back. And thank you for returning. I hope you enjoyed the few minutes at least to share. I know it was very fast. But what we wanted to do was give this opportunity as a plenary, as a place for all of you to ask questions to Sarah about what she shared, any questions you might have had listening to her or that came up during your breakout session, or if you want to share something from your breakout session that touched you, that also is appropriate. So we'll go through, and if you are interested to share, just to know that this is being recorded. So if you want to remain anonymous, you could always type your question in the chat, and then I can pose it to Sarah through the chat box. Or if you don't mind, you can also raise your little electronic hand and we can unmute you, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question directly. So it's up to whichever you would like to do. But I would please invite you to think about anything you would like to ask her. We have her expertise here, so we should take that advantage and hear what she has to say. So does anyone have any questions, particularly thoughts, things that came up? And again, you can either type or put in the chat box or raise your hand. I can actually start us out because I have something that came up, something just came up. Do you have an opinion, so this is for Sarah, on the new stem cell activation technology on the market? That's the question in the chat box.
No, I don't.
Okay, good. So a question that came up for me in our little chat room or our little breakout was about the giving and caring versus saying no and setting limits. And what is the relationship between that, and how to say no and take care and set limits without feeling bad or causing sorrow for the other? Is there something you can share about that?
Yeah, I think setting boundaries is a skill that we all need to learn more about. And it's not easy, but I think what I've learned is that if you can do it from a place of peace, often what happens is that we kind of wait too long. We notice that we're either feeling squeezed or intruded upon in some way, or someone's overstepped the boundary, and we kind of let it go on until we get to a point where we react, and we then are reacting from probably a place of irritation or anger or annoyance, and that will trigger off a whole kind of scenario with that person where they'll feel, oh, they're cross with me or angry with me or what have you. So I think the important thing is again, it's being aware of how you're responding, being in tune with yourself and noticing, you know, am I feeling resentful about this, or do I really have the energy for it? Or so it starts with you noticing what's going on with you first, and then giving yourself the time and the space to figure out how to put that request or make an assertive thing in a way that's done from a place of self-respect, if you like. So you're asserting your need, but without getting hopefully angry or upset with the other person. And obviously this takes a while to you need to practice it to see where that boundary is. And one thing that people are talking about a lot now is something called fierce compassion. Kristen Neff's just about to release a book on it, I think. And this idea that, you know, there's the soothing side of compassion, soothing and comforting. There's also another side of compassion, which they call the yang of self-compassion, where you're protecting yourself, you're motivating yourself, you're providing. And so it's a kind of energy. Some people might call it a Shakti energy, but it's an energy that's saying, I am I'm valuable, I'm important, I am not going to be treated in this way, I value myself. So it's standing in your own power, but it's not against the other person, it's just really establishing yourself. So it's clear, it's honest, it's a different kind of energy to anger. And it's interesting to experience that rather than just reacting to something and then setting off another train of complicated relationships or things like that. But I think the whole topic of setting boundaries and how to do it is very deep, and it's, you know, got a lot of knowledge in it.
Very eloquently put. Thank you. So there is a second question. How does a healthcare professional encourage patients to accept that the body cannot always be cured or healed? I mean that there are times when we, the patient, has to let go of the body and not insist that the NHS has to provide life support indefinitely. So that's the question.
I think it's very hard for people who don't have a sense of how they continue after death. And I've even been with spiritual people who have had a diagnosis of terminal cancer. And it's very interesting to see how some people kind of really get it. And in a sense, they have come to terms with the fact that this particular manifestation of them is not going to continue for much longer. And they're able to practice letting go. And that kind of passing then is much more peaceful. It's much more because the person's accepted it, but also you were talking about hope earlier. There is that feeling that I'm going on to something else, and people of lots of different faiths can have this feeling that I'm actually transitioning into something else. And so it's not, the fear about it is less. And in fact, I had a close friend once who was dying of cancer, and I went around there every night after work, and we just practiced her leaving the body. It was just really preparing for that time when she definitely would go. And I think it made a lot of difference. But often I feel it's your own presence. If people don't have their own practice or their own experience of that, just you being very calm and you being able to say to them, this is the reality, but it will be okay. And you really firmly believing that, I think it gives a lot of power and reassurance and comfort to the other person. And it might not be even through your words, just through your presence, that you're not going, oh my God, this is terrible. You're going, really, this is okay. This is part of life. We are all going to pass on, and it will be all right.
Beautiful. So a little bit question back to setting boundaries. Yes, I find setting boundaries in a positive way. For many takes courage. Can you speak to what gets in the way of having that courage?
What gets in the way of having the courage to speak? Well, sometimes I think again, it's not having the skill to be able to express yourself in the way that you want to, that you're afraid you're going to explode, or you're going to, really have an energy behind it that's not really you, or you're worried what the other person's going to say. So I think it's a lot to do with the energy behind the request, and what's your intention. And so I think it's that kind of self-reflection to see, am I trying to hurt the other person in any way, or is there something in the way I'm doing it that's going to have a negative impact on them? So I think if you check your own intention, make sure that is for the right reasons and done with the right energy, then you will have more courage to be able to speak out, and also learn the right language or the right tone of voice and things to do. I know that this was a plenary, so it would be very nice to also hear back from others, or hear in the chat box what they discussed in their groups, or some of your own experiences of these practices, because I'm not an expert. You're all experts, so it'd be lovely to hear from some of you. You've heard me talking a lot.
That's funny, because I actually asked the question about what we were discussing in our plenary group, which was about setting boundaries without causing sorrow to the other. So,
and what came up in your group?
Mostly the same thing, that sometimes we have a lot of fear about what the other person will think, and we think they're going to think we're deserting them or negating them, or being mean to them. And so we have fear around sharing no, because we want to be helpers, we're healers, we want to give, but at some point it becomes that you can't give if you're empty. So we talked literally about this, what you were describing as the yang of self-care, yang of self-compassion, which is the setting the boundaries and saying, I'm important, and this is important for me to be okay. So we shared a little bit about that as well. Both of those aspects in creating safe boundaries for ourselves. Yeah. So I'm sorry to say it's all questions coming in the chat. Did anyone else want to share about their experience? There's a question about Happy Dote, which has already been answered. What's the name of the app?
I mean, one thing about the boundary thing, there's a really good course called Radical Boundaries on Daily Om. I recommend that to anyone. But I remember I was sharing a house once with someone, and I really marveled at the way she was always able to say no in such a nice way that people didn't even realize she was saying no. And I learned a lot from her. She'd say, oh, I'm so sorry, I just really don't have the time right now. I'd love to be able to help you, but I just can't do it right now. So the energy behind her no was very loving and very, and I think that's really interesting, because it didn't create that reaction of no. So that taught me a lot of how, if the energy behind it has that kindness and love, even though it's a no, the people don't feel rejected. I think that's the thing, isn't it? Or somehow.
Something about my own self being comfortable with why it is I need to say no. Like I really don't, not just reacting to a feeling and defending, so to speak, but really getting, why is it I need to say no? So that I can feel comfortable with how I put it. And it's not this feeling of rejection from the other person. So for the other person.
Someone's raised their hand.
Oh, really? Sorry, I'm not seeing that. Ah, yes. All
I
right.
thought I wanted to share my answer to the second question that was asked. And, I've been doing meditation for the past 2 to 3 years. And it's really helping me stay focused and stay calm throughout the day. So I was thinking I would continue doing that in the future years, taking a break from it now, but going to continue doing that, and also go for regular walks outdoors to increase my happiness index. I was reading about which countries have the highest happiness, and a lot of European countries have a high happiness index. So I was thinking that I would go for regular walks and also frequent vacations, and that would help me stay happy and also reduce my stress and bring my anxiety under control.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. It's wonderful to hear somebody's coming away with a strategy. Great. And now we have George. If you'd like to unmute yourself, you can ask your question.
Yes. Hi.
Share.
Good evening. One of my question was, what practice have you already been doing to support yourselves through the rough time? And we discussed this in our chat room, me and sister named Tanya, I think. And for me, after coming off of work for like sometimes 12 hours or so, one of the things I find that helps me is find myself a quiet place in the library, and I would turn on some quiet instrumental music where I will just sit there in silence, and at least for a good 15-20 minutes, and that really helped me to unwind. The other sister, she spoke about reading something spiritual and going out by the beach, walk, nice fresh air. These are just some of the things that we discussed to help her deal with the challenging situation in life. So for me, I do find coming home and doing this quiet moment with a nice quiet instrumental music, it helps me. And Sister Carmen had also told us to maybe we should try to put on the traffic control on our phone through the course of the day, no matter how busy we are. And I find that does help. It does help. So it helps tremendously in relieving some of the stress and issues that we go through life every day. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing.
I think, George, what you're talking about there, which is a strategy that is recommended, is a kind of work-home boundary ritual that, often people find just to be able to leave kind of work behind, that they do something specifically to say, I've finished work now and I'm now in my own space or my own home. So listening to music's a lovely way, or lighting a candle, or having a hot bath, or just walking around your garden, just some little thing that really denotes to you that work is finished now. I'm in a different space. They call it a boundary ritual.
Beautiful. There are some comments which I'd like to read out, and some questions which really I don't think we'll have time to answer. They're quite long, but the comments: it was a wonderful experience and workshop. Practicing self-compassion and meditation is helping me to overcome a lot of problems. I love the meditation practiced by Sarah Eagger and Kala Iyengar. It's so soothing and really calmed my mind. Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing about the energy behind saying no. I've never felt comfortable saying no. I always felt that an explanation is necessary and polite. And someone said keeping a happiness journal helped them. So that's nice, a practice. We always think about gratitude journals, but what a lovely idea to keep a happiness journal. Very beautiful. Another thing that helped me was the strategy of remembering that I am an instrument, not a doer. God is the doer. This helped me to silence the inner critic.
That's lovely. That's quite, I think you can have your own words for that. And I think it's a Christian phrase, but it's one that I find really helpful. which is let me be an instrument of thy peace. And that's, for me, it's just like a little affirmation that kind of reminds me that it's peace from somewhere else that I wish to bring into the world. Sometimes people might say, thy will be done. There's sort of things from your childhood that come up, and we can all have our own phrases that just help us tune into that sense that you want to be a conduit of something bigger than yourself, or from beyond yourself, that is really going to be of use to other people. You know, you don't want to be giving out that energy of distress or upset or anxiety, and so you just want to channel that energy of peace and of love. So I think, yeah, just having a little affirmation to remind yourself of that is also really helpful, really grounding.
Beautiful, thank you. So we are out of time for this plenary. The final little question, comment: to be in nature helps me, and the remembering of God, remembering of Baba. And thank you for the wonderful talk and meditation. So these are the final comments. So thank you all for sharing and asking your questions and joining. And I will now turn it back over to Carmen, who will take us through the rest of the program. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you so much, Sarah and Marilyn. And of course, as usual, we never have enough time. So we'll do this again. All right, so now we're going into another little part of the program where we're going to spend a little time just offering some tributes to Dadi Janki. And so we're going to start with Dr. Kala, who is going to take us through part of this segment. Okay, so Kala?
Yes. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So wonderful to be together again. And yes, it was a lovely sharing. And as you heard in the beginning of the program, one of the things that prompted this program was to kind of remember and reminisce our times with Dadi Janki, or what we have learned.
I want to see you.
Carla, we can't see you.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, there you are.
For that. Okay, so one of our reasons for doing this program was to remember and to recollect and reminisce our times and experiences and lessons from Dadi Janki, about whom I think you've heard a little bit towards the beginning of the program. I also have had the fortune of being with Dadi Janki, maybe not as close as I would have liked to be, but quite, quite a number of times. And usually we would meet in our headquarters, or when she came here to New York, mostly. So I think to kind of put it into words is very difficult, but she was a little bullet of energy, she was a little bullet of energy in a tiny little body. And she had tremendous energy. And of course, she was a spiritual giant. That's where her whole energy came from. And I think what I took from her most was the genuine way that she cared, the genuine way that she lived her life. And one of my famous quotes from her is, I know how to live and I know how to die. And she took great pride in, giving us all this challenge that you should probably do the same thing too, right? You should know how to live and you should know how to die. And she did actually prove herself, in the way that she went, which of course is a big story, and we won't go into that, but she really knew how to leave this life and to go on to the next one. And so we thought, yes, she was a woman of many things, a woman of wisdom, and a woman of power and all of that. But in my experience, her whole thing can be captured perhaps in the way that she cared for herself. And again, you heard this before, how she would be in the midst of so many people, but she would really be doing what Sarah just told us, a few minutes ago. That little practice right in the middle of it all, she would be doing it so silently, quietly with herself, giving herself, donating to herself that pure positive energy. And she was a firm believer, not only in meditation, but also in doing serving others, charity, in other words. So she believed in a lot of blessings coming back to help you when you're in a time of need. So, and then of course, she would, of course, take medicines. She wouldn't take them often, I think, but the medicines that she took, she would have great faith in them. She wouldn't question them. So she almost kind of gave us a little equation of how she dealt with her own self-care. About 85% of what she did for herself came through her connection with her true self or with God. Maybe about 10-15% would come from the blessings that she was so sure she would get back, because she was always about giving to others. So obviously it has to come back to you. And then about 5% from the medical care, the traditional medical care that she would receive. And she had to receive a lot of it through her ages. She lived up to 104. So she came as a very young child to spirituality, young girl rather, and not as a healthy person. She had lots of problems with her physical health. But she kind of, I wouldn't say talked herself out, but she lived herself out of all of that in just believing these strong principles. For example, I myself would walk through her, by her room one night, and she would be moaning and groaning with pain. And I would say, oh my God, she is not going to be up for a couple of days, at least 2-3 days. And the next morning, she had pulled herself out. And she was in class and she was sharing and she was doing everything that she would have done otherwise. So she was a great person in terms of the example of self-care, I feel, and I took a lot from her in the way that she cared for herself. And the most important, I think, what she practiced was what we call as getting out of the body. Like really, we are so much in the body when we are in pain, especially. And she would say, okay, the body is doing its thing, but let me do my thing. I, as a soul, do my thing of being bodiless. And she would give credit to, of course, her practice over the years. And it didn't come easy, single day practice, but many, many years of that practice. And I took a lot of inspiration from her practice of what we call bodiless stage. And of course, treating the body with a lot of love and respect. It didn't mean that she ignored or she neglected, but she actually was able to give more vibrations of love and respect to her body, especially when it was going through something. And the other thing I think I was really took from her was the way she cared for others, especially those in pain or those in any kind of situations that they couldn't help themselves. And she always separated these two, the pain and the suffering part. And she, because she did it with herself, she was able to demonstrate it for or give it or show it to others also. And she would do it through this practice of what we call exchange of a pure vision for each other. And that's what gives you the vibrations, the soul sharing vibrations with vibrations, with the other soul. And she would visit people that are sick in the hospital or even otherwise, even within the center. And she would make it a point that she spends time with them, quality time with them, not necessarily a long time, but she would make sure that she gives quality time where she would be in silence, exchanging and, sharing from that pure place. And we call it drishti, or, pure vibrations through your glance with each other. And I think also it's a very beautiful method that we can also adopt also for ourselves when we can't say anything, that would soothe the other person. Like there was a question, I think, what do you say to a person that has lost a loved one? Can't say anything, right? But you can be there, you can be present, you can look at that person with a lot of love and compassion and also power, as we rightfully heard from Sarah. So caring for herself, caring for the people around her, and of course, caring for the people that care for people, which is the caregivers. It was very much in her heart to bring them together and to talk to them and to make sure that they understood the gist of how they should not get burned out, how they should care for themselves and connect with that healing energy over and over again. And I saw that happen again. You know, she would be in the midst of meetings and she would call us back to, you know, when we are deep in the discussion of what to do next and how to plan. And this, I said, wait a minute. She would call us back to our silence and she would say, let's go back into that place of being genuinely who we are and come from the place of love and care. So many instances, of course, you know, she worked like a rocket. She was very fast. She didn't want things to linger around for a while. If she saw people in pain, she said, let's do something about it right away. You know, once there was somebody talking about 2-year plan or 3-year plan. I said, and she would say, people are suffering. Let's do this fast. So she was very much, you know, master of compassion, powerful compassion, spiritual compassion. So I've taken a lot and would like to actually introduce a video to speak her story, herself to tell you her story in her own words. Of course, it's just a little clip of what she spoke to to healthcare professionals, and we wanted everybody to hear that. And after that, you'll be also hearing from 2 other people, right? Dr. Julia Ronder, who you all heard about in the beginning, she's from the UK and she's a consulting child and adolescent psychiatrist with the NHS. And she's also a certified mindful compassion teacher, you know, incorporating that in her practice. She is very involved with the Janki Foundation in the steering group, and she does a lot of silent retreats for healthcare professionals, which I think is of great interest to all of us, right? So she'll be sharing on Dadi Janki, her experience with Dadi Janki, and also Dr. Shwetank Agarwal right here from the US. Also a healthcare professional, cardiac anesthesiologist, based in South Carolina, and he is a co-founder of the Global Institute of Mind-Body Wellness. Very concerned about promoting health in the community, wellness in the community, and he's been a practitioner of Raj Yoga meditation, incorporating that in his practice as well. You'll hear from both of them. But first, the video that we would like to see and hear Dadi Janki and her direct words to us.
अच्छा, जिसमें दया है उसमें निम्रता है, जिसमें निम्रता है उसमें सत्यता है ना.
When there's compassion, there's humility, and when there's humility, there's truth.
तो मैं समझती हूँ सर्जन को भी होना चाहिए, पर पेशेंस को भी जरूरी है.
So the surgeon needs compassion, but the patient also needs the same.
अपन को ठीक करें तो कैसे करें?
How can I help myself?
तो ऐसा जल्दी ठीक करें जो मेरे सामने पेशेंट है वो भी ठीक हो जाए.
And how can I look after myself so well that other patients who are around me also get well?
वो मेरी पेशेंट मेरी शक्ल देख करके बेचारा वही कहेगा तुम बहुत बिजी हो, बहुत थकी हुई हो, बोला ये मैं कैसे तुमको तकलीफ दूँ.
Sometimes if a patient comes to me and says, but if you're too busy or if you're looking tired, how can I help them?
ये किसको ख्याल ना है तुम सुबह से बहुत बिजी हो, बिजी है शब्द का मेरी इंसल्ट कर दी.
Nobody should have the thought that I'm too busy. If they say I'm too busy, then it's an insult.
जिंदगी वो बताओ काला टाइम है जो किसी को मैंने हंसी में कह दिया जो कहता मैं बिजी हूँ वो लेजी है. बेचारा कितना मेरे पीछे पड़ा. अच्छा.
In one of our dialogues, Dadi had said that if somebody says I'm too busy, it's actually because they're too lazy. Dadi meant that they don't know how to prioritize and manage their time.
जिसका समय हर समय सफल होता है, किसको फायदा होता है, उसकी दुआ निकलती है, खुशी बढ़ती है, थकावट कहेगी।
If my time has been spent in a worthwhile way, if somebody's taken benefit, if somebody's able to have greater happiness, then it's going to increase my own happiness too. So it's not a question of tiredness then.
तो सवेरे मैं इस बहन को ये कहना चाहती थी, बहन तुम थको ही नहीं, थको ही नहीं।
And so Dadi wants to share with Jan in particular, but with everyone, never let yourself get tired.
मैं सबके लिए कहती हूँ, निमित्त आपको कहती हूँ, थको ही नहीं तो बड़ा अच्छी मुस्कुरा करके थकावट को दूर करता। आई ना, मुस्कुराहट की गोली बड़ी अच्छी है।
Never allow yourself to get tired, or if there's a little bit of something that might cause tiredness, smile, and the smile is a tablet that will take away the tiredness.
थकावट से थोड़ा दर्द ज़्यादा महसूस होता है।
If I allow myself to feel tired, I feel more pain.
तो चेहरे पर आता है।
Then it's reflected on my face.
फिर चेहरे को ठीक करने में भी टाइम लग जाता है।
And then it takes time to sort myself out.
इतना टाइम अपने को नहीं देना चाहिए।
I shouldn't need to give myself so much time.
थोड़ा थकावट हुई, समझो थोड़ा, कुछ ज़्यादा बोला या कुछ जो मेरे पसंदी की बात, पसंदी मानो ज़रूरी बात नहीं थी, फालतू टाइम गमाया तो थोड़ा मैं थकी।
Or maybe if things didn't work out as I actually wanted them to, it wasn't according to my own wanting, then maybe that's what's causing extra tiredness.
समझो मैं कहूँ ऐसे होना चाहिए, ये ऐसे नहीं हो रहा है तो मैं थक गई।
If I say it shouldn't be like this, it should be like that, I'm going to get tired.
जैसे बीमारी के कारण निकालते हो ना, क्या डायग्नोस क्या करते हो, मुझे भी पता नहीं है। थकावट के भी निकलने छोटे छोटे कारण बहुत है। अगर वो समझा जाए ना तो थकावट कभी नहीं हो सकती है।
Just as there's a diagnosis of illness, in the same way, look out what are the causes of tiredness. There's lots of little things that create tiredness and deal with them.
थकावट में फिर आवाज़ चेंज हो जाता है।
And when there is tiredness, then the quality of my voice changes.
अगर मैंने धीरे से प्रेम से नहीं बोला तो बेचारा भाग जाएगा, जो मेरे सामने होगा कहेंगे भाई ये तो मेरी दवाई इसके पास नहीं है।
And if I speak without love, without patience, then the person's going to say, I'm not going to be cured by this person. This one doesn't have any medicine for me.
दया के साथ धीरज बहुत अच्छा है।
Together with compassion, patience is essential.
धीरज के साथ हिम्मत रखना, मदद भगवान से लेना, तो इतनी जल्दी ठीक हो जाना।
And when there's patience and I have courage, then God is able to give help.
So amazing to be seeing Dadi like that. And it's a lovely opportunity to share some inspirations that I've taken from Dadi Janki over many years. I first met Dadi Janki in 1984. And one thing that has really stood out is she started talking about this thing called Mansa Seva, service with the mind, how we can serve with our attitude of mind and our thoughts. And she even said, you know, put your hand up if you're interested in this, if you want to go ahead in this. And I remember putting my hand up very enthusiastically. And a few years later, I asked her again about it. And she went into a very deep state of silence that she would often do. And I look back and I think that was also, in a way, her showing really deep self-care, that if she needed time to think about something and to really tune in, she would take that time. So it seemed about 5 minutes later, she came back and into the presence of the room, and she said there are some souls who their role is to just bring love into a gathering. They don't talk, it's not what they do, but they bring love into the gathering. And I remember she said, do you want me to think of you as one of those souls? And I remember saying, yes, please. And in a way that I sort of remember her voice sometimes when I'm in a gathering, sometimes of challenging meetings at work, and I feel a great responsibility to really, really keep up the good wishes for everybody in that meeting and in the room. And, you know, it really feels like I've got to look after this blessing that I received from Dadi. And there's another completely different scene that really comes to my mind in terms of how I've been inspired by Dadi. She was speaking at a huge public program, and I remember her almost laughing, just being absolutely incredulous. She said, I've heard that health professionals are burning out, and that sometimes they feel life isn't worth living, that they're even suicidal, you know. And she I just remember her looking to the gathering saying, how can this be? How can this possibly be? People who are meant to be helping other people have nothing to give and have no energy left. And she said, we have to do something. You all have to do something. And I think that was a real key moment for me. And I started running retreats for healthcare professionals that I run in collaboration with the Janki Foundation, and with a lovely retreat center, people who've met Dadi and been very, very inspired by Dadi themselves. And so my sense was to have the theme of silence. So we have about an hour talk and share ideas, a lot of self-compassion focus, and then give people silence. And obviously the people that come to those days are people who love silence. But the sense is they've just kept on going, and I plan to keep them going. And you know, a total inspiration from Dadi, I must say, and in an ongoing way. And then I'd just like to end by saying, about a year, just over a year ago, really in the last 2 weeks before Dadi passed last year, I, in my morning meditation, started having very clear experiences of Dadi sitting next to me and seeing that I was quite overwhelmed. It was a phase, as often happens, where I felt overworked and a bit overburdened. And it's as if she saw completely clearly, and she was just helping me bring it back to the complete basics, you know, just sit and send peace to your work, sit and send peace to your life. And that has just stayed with me ever since then, and still regularly now. I almost feel I just have one motto in life, which is, you know, I'm a being who sends peace. A bit exactly what Sarah was saying, you know, let me be an instrument of thy peace. And I still really experience Dadi in a very ongoing way now. It was such a powerful experience to just send peace to my job, my patients, my life. So thank you, Dadi Janki, for all those inspirations ongoing. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and Om Shanti. What an honor to be part of this beautiful event. And thank you for this opportunity to share with all of you how Dadi Janki has inspired me. Unlike Dr. Julia and many others, I did not get a chance to be mentored and coached directly by Dadi Janki. But in the past 20-some years of my being with the Brahma Kumaris, having had the chance to listen to hundreds of her spiritual classes, either online or personally, physically in front of her, and also listening to many stories shared by people who have been very close to her, I feel as if I know her very intimately. And based on all of this, I've been able to construct a very unique image of her that has lingered in my consciousness, I feel, very well, even today, more than a year after her passing away. And so through her life, you know, but even before that, you know, I feel that what I'm going to say about Dadi Janki is serendipitously going to be similar to what others have shared, Sister Kala and Dr. Julia and so on and so forth, because I think, and in a way, there are no accidents, because we are probably seeing the same wonderful qualities in Dadi Janki, which I feel has inspired hundreds and thousands of people across the world. And some of the things that I've seen in her are perseverance, her tenacity, her grit, her love for service, but I feel more than anything else, what truly inspired me was her ability to heal herself, something which Dr. Kala alluded to a little while back. And so I feel she's a classic example of mind over matter. And I hope I don't misrepresent facts here, because again, I'm saying this based, whatever I'm going to say now is going to be based on what she has shared in her classes and what other people who know her intimately have shared in their classes or sessions as well. That I know that at a very young age, she ended up with pulmonary tuberculosis, and she never took medicines for those, for that pulmonary tuberculosis, and she was able to heal herself spontaneously. And then later, that tuberculosis did evolve to chronic tuberculosis. And then she, as far as my understanding, she ended up with tuberculosis of the spine. And yet, despite that, and there was a time in her middle age that she was almost bedridden, but she was able to heal herself out of that too. And then at the age of 90-ish, I remember she got a cardiac cath. And she had very severe coronary artery disease, almost critical blockages in all her 3 arteries. And it's interesting that, normally such a situation would automatically make her a candidate for some intervention, all of which she really refused. And the next moment, I remember seeing her jetting around the world, coming to UK, coming to the US, a marvel in itself. And I have seen and known that she was truly a museum of many illnesses, and yet the ability to still make herself mobile and to be of service to mankind was such an amazing thing. And I still hold it very dear in my heart. And what this has all done is to reinforce in me my dream, my vision, and my true hope for healthcare that I have held on for the past 2 decades, the hope that healthcare can evolve to such an extent that one day it implodes upon itself. In other words, my hope is that we as a society, as a civilization, can evolve to such a higher level of functioning that there is really no need for healthcare at all, that we can heal ourselves spontaneously through our own connection to the essence of our pure, undefiled existence, and also through our connection with God. And in that process, not only be able to heal ourselves, but also be able to heal others around us. And then eventually we can heal the whole world totally, completely. And I think there was one question in the chat box about stem cell activation. And there's a whole lot of conversation happening now in modern medicine too, or mainstream medicine, about how we can activate our stem cells in a natural way. And they're talking about how diet and so on and so forth can help. And because actually our stem cells can then create everything else that we want. And say if there's a bone that is needing to be healed, those stem cells can become bone cells. If our red blood cells are less, those stem cells can become our red blood cells. But all of this is really mind over matter. Truly, if you can create the right kind of energy internally, that kind of peace, happiness, and equanimity and strength and stability, then we can activate our own stem cells, and that's what I think Dadi Janki was doing all her life. And another thing what I feel personally is about this the conversation that Sarah was talking about, and even Marilyn, and there were many questions about this, about the aspect of saying no. What I realized through these many interactions online and through classes from Dadi Janki was that many times you really don't have to say no, if that makes sense. In a way, we say no because we often don't know our true capacity. And so if we can go into the essence of our existence, to who we really are, the boundless, limitless existence that we truly have, then many times we can rise up to the occasion and be able to deliver much more than we have ever anticipated or we can ever think about. And at the same time, I feel that we can give to people in such beautiful ways, in many times not in the way that the soul or the person is asking for, but give it in a different way. And that's what I saw from Dadi Janki. And so personally, I feel that there is so much to thank Dadi Janki, and my heart swells up with gratitude for Dadi Janki. So thank you. With this, I hand it over back to Carmen or Dr. Kala.
Carmen, you're muted.
Okay, so thank you. Can you hear me now? Thank you so much to everyone for your lovely sharing. I just want to take this moment to say we have a couple items left, not a lot, but just a few. We are at 1 o'clock, 1:03, and I just want to say to everyone, we're asking your permission to continue just to finish up. So sorry about that. So let us just take a moment longer together. Hopefully we can all stay till the end of it all. Okay, so we have just one more tribute to offer to Dadi Janki, and this is coming from Lucinda Drayton, who is a student of the Brahma Kumaris in London, and she had a very interesting relationship with Dadi, and she would have loved to be here to share her tribute, but she couldn't be. So she has a tribute, which is a song. She is a recording artist, and she has a lovely song for us on video, on video. And so she is going to share that song with us. It's called Love Song to a Tiny Flower, tribute to Dadi Janki.
Flower breaks the stone, her roots connected far below. She drinks the power of the sun, a testament to anyone who's taken on what seems to be immovable, with faith to launch 1,000 stars, to ride a comet straight to Mars, when all oppose refuse to see, and say that it will never be. Collective mind and one belief, impossible. The quiet way unseen by eyes, who seek to shine a neon light. The gentle, strong, insistent flow of one who says they do not know, but understand and show in ways remarkable. I wish to swing out of the sea, to land inside this landscape me, a solitude of still ripples, and quiet concert there compose, not for applause and not for need of anything. If I could see
So from Dadi Janki to all of us, a sweet blessing. Through a powerful vision of love and regard for the self and others, I'm able to release what damages the heart and embrace only that which heals. I can experience the power behind every thought and choose only those that uplift and empower. So let's take that blessing home, all of us. Internalize it just for a second. Om Shanti. And thank you.
Om Shanti. Just want to come to almost the end. We just have a few announcements to share, but just want to take this moment to say thank you to everybody for being here. Just thank you so much to those who participated in listening, in asking questions, and just lending your energy and being here. And of course, to those who shared with us today. I think the big takeaway for me is self-care. You know, self-care, it's not a luxury, it's a necessity. And in times like these, it's important we really, really take care of ourselves and learn how to do that so that we're really doing it well. All right, so we have a few announcements. And so the first one is some resources that are available, and mostly these are available through the Janki Foundation and the Brahma Kumaris. The book that Sarah mentioned, Stillness in the Storm, that was instrumental for our theme for this program. And that's available on the Janki Foundation website. You can get that as paperback, or you can get it as an ebook. And the Happy Dote, somebody was asking about the app. Again, if you go on the Janki website, you can also find it there, how to download it. But here it is, Happy Dote. There's another one called the B-Zone, Silence is Calling. And this is another app for anyone who needs to take a break in their busy day to get away from the doing and just being. So this is another beautiful resource. And then, of course, if you want to be in contact with us, if you're not yet in contact and you wish to be on the contact list with the Janki Foundation, you can go on their website, jankifoundation.org, and you can subscribe yourself there. For the Point of Life Foundation, you can send us an email to pointlifeus@gmail.com. Or the call number is there, 516-773-7320. And we will send you these slides so that you can have them again. And the Brahma Kumaris, we have the Peace Village Learning and Retreat Center. If you would like to be on the mailing list, you can go on the website and you can subscribe yourself there as well. That's peacevillageretreat.org. You can subscribe there. Now, the contributions for the regard to the COVID situation in India, I'm sure that everybody here is probably aware of the devastation that has impacted the people of India as a second deadly wave of coronavirus sweeps through the country. And so our thoughts and our good wishes and our prayers are all with them. The Janki Foundation in the UK, the Point of Life Foundation, and the Brahma Kumaris in the US are very committed to supporting the work there. And the hospital there, the Global Hospital and Retreat Center in Mount Abu, Rajasthan, India, which is a hospital run by the Brahma Kumaris, is very committed to supporting the community through this pandemic and just ongoing supporting the community. But now with the pandemic, really they've taken on an extra role in serving the people with coronavirus, but in serving the community, the families as well. So if you want to contribute to this cause of the relief of the coronavirus relief, if you're in the UK and you want to do it, you can do it through the Janki Foundation. If you go to their website, again, the jankifoundation.org, you will see how you can subscribe there or you can contribute there. And for the Point of Life Foundation in the US, if you went to the pointoflife.info global outreach, you will get a link from there to contribute to this cause. So we thank you very much for your support and for your interest in wanting to support the less fortunate and those who are suffering and badly in need. Was there anything else that we needed to say?
Yes, and
The last slide is on the Heal Well, Feel Well. The Heal Well, Feel Well is an ongoing weekly forum for healthcare practitioners. And so we would love to have you. It's in the evening usually at 8 to 8:45. You can, if you want to contact us to get more information, it's pointoflife.events@gmail.org, or we do have a registration link. So we will send you these slides. For those who registered and we have your email, we'll send you the slides so you can get all these links and all this contact information. Okay, thank you. And for those of us who often come on the Heal Well, Feel Well on Sunday evenings, tomorrow evening, we will not be having our full session, but we're going to have a half an hour of meditation. So please join us for that. You can send an email to that email address if you're not yet on the list. Don't have the, Shrita, do you have the ID that we can give them? Or they just have to go on the line?
I don't have it right
Okay,
away.
that's fine. Just send us an email at pointoflife.events@gmail.com and we can send you the information. We can put you on our list.
Go to the website as well, pointoflife.info.
Right, okay, that's right. And it's there. Pointoflife.info, and the Heal Well, Feel Well contact information is there. And is that the last one? Yes? Is there any other slide? Any other announcement? That is it. We thank you so much again. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for hanging on with us. And we look forward to meeting you again somewhere, sometime, and sharing again in these experiences.
Carmen, I was able to find the meeting ID and I have posted it in the chat box.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And a big, big thank you to Sarah and to Marilyn and to Julia and to Shweta.
And to Kala. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Om Shanti.
Thank you for inviting us, and it's lovely to do a collaborative hands across the ocean event.
Yes, it was a beautiful experience. Thank you for saying
and the
yes.
fortune of Zoom make it so easy.
And the IT support team.
And the IT support team, of course, those behind the scenes, Kiran and Kinnari, and the whole team of the Heal Well, Feel Well group that were not on video or on the scene, but everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Enjoy the rest of your day.
And good night to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.